ultimately, if we break it down, it is the movement of your vocal cords that are creating the sound, It's the movement of the mental, It's shifting words around in the moment, because you've got to think about the rhyme, but you've also got to think about meaning, So yes, there's a lot of movement when it comes to that. And even like any rapper that you hear, like they're doing this while they're spitting,
Hello and welcome to Move to Live with me, Akram Khan, brought to you by Marquee TV, the streaming platform that takes amazing performances from across the arts right onto your screen. As a dancer and choreographer, I see everything through the lens of movement. I'm fascinated by how it shapes how we relate to each other and how we relate to ourselves. How do we use movement to share ideas? How is our movement affected by the spaces we find ourselves in? These are the kind of questions I'm often thinking about. So I wanted to chat with other creative people to find out about their own relationship with movement. Today's guest is a mover with a capital M. I'm delighted to be talking with hip-hop genius Jonzi D. Internationally renowned dancer, choreographer, MC, spoken word artist, and artistic director of Breakin Convention Festival. Jonzi is one incredible human being. So let's go. Hello, Jonzi.
Hello, Akram.
When I was reading up about you, it was just unbelievable of not just the movement shift that you've made in the form itself as a dancer and as a choreographer, but for the genre, how much movement there's been, how much shift there's been from street to the Sadlers. But before we go there, I've got so many questions. I want to ask you, how do you define hip-hop?
I define hip-hop as a cultural energy. And the result of that cultural energy is breaking, some say breakdance, the music, the DJ, the ability to make something with nothing, graffiti, rap, beatboxing. All of these forms are evidence of this thing called hip-hop. But I think hip-hop precedes the elements. I think as a consciousness, I think hip-hop has roots in conflict resolution. From the Bronx, which people widely recognize as the roots of it, it comes from the disenfranchised communities. And this road called the Cross Expressway in the Bronx Cross Expressway. But anyway, they were building that in the early 60s or mid 60s. And as a result of that, a bunch of communities in which I would call apartheid America at the time, because people were in their very distinct communities, the Dominicans, the Puerto Ricans, the Jamaicans, the African Americans, the white people, you know what I mean? But this created a condition where everybody had to sit together, yeah? And people wanted to protect their turf, which was the birth of a lot of gang organizations at the time. And I think that hip-hop was an opportunity to not feel as that's your only option. And people formed crews of dancers, crews of graffiti writers, crews of MCs. And rather than feeling as though you got to solve problems with violence, people solved problems with art. And I just remember feeling like that when I first discovered hip-hop. There was a real, coming from Bow, East London, it's road business, do you know what I mean? And just seeing how the concept of forming gangs, and it's not even a racial thing, you know what I mean? Because at this time in the late 70s, early 80s, football hooliganism was massive at the time. And again, I think that this is one of the conditions that give birth to these positive cultures, and particularly in relation to the white community, acid house, that killed football violence in one night. You know what I mean? Dance culture, and drug culture, to be fair. Ecstasy was taken a lot. But the dance is actually what pulled people together, So for me, to answer your question, for me, hip hop is the spirit of conflict and unity at the same time. That the battle can just be about art, and then you can hug and and be cool with each other afterwards. You know what I mean?
What's so beautiful listening to you speak is that I feel like all the guests that I've had here, and including yourself, you're like a living museum, an encyclopedia. It's experiential knowledge.
Yes.
And what's really interesting about where you're going now is, what are you doing with that knowledge? How are you passing that down? And so I wanted to connect it to the brand new academy, Breakin Convention in East London.
Yes.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Incredible, the first of its kind.
Yes.
Part of Sadler's Wells, your vision with Sadler's Wells. What is this school going to be like? It's the first of its kind. And
it is the first of its kind, and it's hard to say. So my vision for it is looking at the elements of the creative, not just performative, because there's also graffiti that's part of the course as well, but just looking at the forms which people say is hip hop, which we widely recognize. So breaking, in particular. We've got different stand-up dances, which are part of the course. So popping, and then we've got social dance, and within that banner, we're going to do things like crump, light feet, house dance. So that's the dance element. Then there's the music element, in which we're doing beat making, music production, MCing. So everybody has to practice the art form of MCing, rap, rhythm, and poetry as an acronym, DJing, which I guess is the foundation of the culture, and graffiti, yeah? And all of those elements, we're going to work those elements. It's a level 3 diploma. So it's people just leaving school. And we're using those elements to then act as our palette for making theatre. You know what I mean? And I always imagine this. Like I trained at Lewisham College, Celtech it was called at the time, and then I went on to the place. But I remember being in the class and asking whether we're going to do any hip hop, because we were in a jazz class. We were doing jazz history at the time, and I'm seeing black faces, people that look like me. And I'm thinking, this is really cool that we're learning about, this marginalized so-called community, And I could see that because I was practicing hip hop at the time. This was like 87. So I asked the question and I was told that no, because we are preparing the students for a career. And I thought, interesting, because I see the point, and at the time, hip hop wasn't really in the theatres, you know what I mean? We saw it on a few music videos, but there never was a sense that this is a professional activity, even though at the time people were getting paid to do music videos. So clearly it's a professional activity.
But isn't there something a little bit colonial about that? Or am I wrong? That perception of that anything that is not what they consider to be mainstream or serious, it somehow won't have, it just won't be taken as seriously or taken formally.
Yes.
Yes,
I would absolutely agree with that. I remember moments studying at the place and
the London School of Contemporary Dance.
London School of Contemporary. You know, I called it the place because the theatre and the school they feel like one thing to me, you know. But yeah, I just felt that I was when I would break, you know, I wasn't the best breaker, you know what I mean, but I would do it anyway because I liked floor work, which it was called. And I used to think that release work was basically unsophisticated breaking because a lot of the ideas are the same, the use of momentum to activate movement. But we were just doing little rolly things on the ground. And I'm thinking, if you just put some more power onto that, you can fly, you know, which is what we can see breakers doing now. So I always felt that there was evidence of the types of ways of working that I was experiencing through hip hop. But honestly, it just didn't sound fluffy and it wasn't intellectualized. It was just done. It was the music that was driving you. It was watching other people doing it and finding their movement. And it allowed us to find our way of doing it. It wasn't about mimicry. It was about seeing, being influenced, and then building on top of that. So it wasn't about doing the same thing as someone. It was completely about doing your own thing, which is interesting in the context of hip-hop theatre, how important it is sometimes to do unison, you know? But how do you do unison if you're training to be an individual? Question.
That's a really good question, actually. I suppose unison means different things to different people because I just saw an African that blew me away. I saw them, I was being a mentor for 3 choreographers in Luxembourg, in De la Ville. And they said, oh, come and see a show in the evening. There's this wonderful African artist from Kenya, I think. I hope that's right. And his company of dancers, but they're based in France. He was based in France. And what was interesting was it was a group of dance people that I felt like were from the community, all shapes and sizes, all different experiences. Nobody danced the same, but there was unison.
Yeah.
And that's community dance.
Yes.
So
what was how would you define unison in that context?
2 things. The concept that's driving them, that's in unison. And the intention.
Yes, yes. It's defined in a way by its individuality. And we love the idea of unison because rhythmically they know what they're doing. And as you said, intention, I think once that's clear, then there's a oneness in the freedom. I think that's at the root of most dance, actually. You know, I think ballet is one of the only dances that don't do that, actually. You know? Symmetry is such an ideal. And we used to complain about that when dancing ballet, that we feel as though we're clones, you know. Personally, I never felt that. And my favourite dancers, they always exuded themselves within that. And I will mention Brenda Last. Yeah, she was my ballet teacher at London Contemporary Dance School. And you know, she talked about technique shouldn't lock you in. Technique should free you.
But that's the beautiful juxtaposition of 2 very different things, because how can you appreciate what it means to be individual if you're not if you don't understand what it feels to be imprisoned within something?
Yes.
Did you feel that? So. Did you feel place gave you something like that? And is that what you're trying to do with your own school now?
So I think what the place gave me through just amazing teachers at the place, Brenda Last was one of them. Paul Douglas who was doing the release work thing, he also trained in Aikido.
Yeah, that's right.
And
he was my teacher as well.
Right,
Yeah.
of course, right. I love Paul Douglas. He really influenced me so positively within at the school. And I think that the place gave me options because I came in, I'll never forget the first day I come into the place. I had my saggiest jeans on, I had my baseball cap turned to the side. I had baby locks at the time.
How old were you?
I was I was 19 when I first went to the place. So I first left school, I did government politics, sociology and economics A-levels. Don't know why I wanted to do that. It's absolutely crazy. My mum passed away.
Did you say government politics?
Government and politics.
Government and politics?
Dude, government and politics.
Interesting choice.
I mean, I know why. Because I like politics. I'm interested in that. And if you look at my artwork, you'll see that all of it has got some political voice there. Sociology, because I like people. I like the study of people. Economics, I have no clue why I decided to do that. But I dropped out after the first year. It was just ridiculous. It was, I had no art that was focused in my life. And I guess it kind of was related to my parents not being around at the time and having to make a decision. And, I made some bad decisions at the time, and dance was that one thing that helped me out. It gave me focus. Okay, so I wanted to be an actor. Yeah. When I was in primary school. When I went to secondary school, they only had dance on the curriculum. So I kind of fell into it accidentally slightly, yeah. I've always wanted to do musicals, Bugsy Malone. I wanted to be in Bugsy Malone. But I didn't want to be the black kid that was singing tomorrow. No, I wanted to be the hood, the gangster. You know what I mean? And not so much because he was a bad person, because it was custard pies that were thrown around, but because of his power, and I've always felt that images of black people were powerless in Hollywood. And I didn't want to be part of that message. I really wanted strong black imagery. I grew up with a book of Muhammad Ali, you too, and just grew up with that. And he was the most remarkable man of the 20th century. He was a brilliant boxer and he stood firm. He did time for his views, Bob Marley, these type of influences are massive for me, as well as the West Indian cricket team. These powerful images of in the 70s, because we were not, I'm sure you must know, because, actually, I don't know. Did you know that the West Indies were a fantastic cricket team in the 70s? Of course.
Yeah, right? my father hated them.
Yes, of course.
Because they kept winning against India or whatever, yeah.
Yes. So just to say that these iconic environments has kind of made me very proud of where I'm from. So it wasn't wavered when I went into the institution. Do you know what I mean? I knew who I was.
You had conviction.
I had conviction, and I always said that I wasn't going to change, which was absolute bullshit. I changed drastically within my time at the place, and really welcome all of the changes. Do you know what I mean? Meeting middle-class people for the first time. That was an interesting one. And there was always this feeling that, rich people, middle-class people are smarter. Yeah. It was great to discover that wasn't the truth, at the time. And again, it's all about feeling empowered and not allowing concepts like racism to get into your bones, you know what I mean? And actually be like, no, I'm not that person. I'm so much more than what these images are reflecting of me. And I think that's what helped me to have the courage to do hip hop theatre.
What is it about hip hop? Because what you've done at Sadler's is incredible, because you've created a home or a hub for hip hop artists to come from all over the world, and for us to be exposed to it, not through a screen, but live.
Yes,
because the hip hop culture live is different.
yes,
as opposed to when you're looking at it through a screen.
Yes.
The energy that you feel, I've attended several of those.
Yes.
The energy that you feel is nothing like any other energy that I felt being at Sadler's. It's special,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And what was interesting was also the choice of curation of artists that you've presented. There's been a real shift and movement towards storytelling.
Yes, there has been. And I guess, I mean, I like storytelling, and I think that's what rap does really well. It obviously does freestyle really well, where you just rap about anything just to be clever, or a rap battle, for example. But actually, when it comes to drama, rap battles is the most amazing context to see someone artistically just destroy somebody's character, destroy the way they look, destroy their narrative themselves. You might have heard about the latest big rap battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. But they've just been going at it and saying some foul stuff between each other. But it was like a soap opera. Like, we waited, what's the next response going to be? So I think that hip-hop literally does bring the drama, you know what I mean? The hip-hop body has so much in it. The voice, you know what I mean? Not just the different styles within the body. The socio-economic context to be able to dig in to some stories that may reflect trauma, you know? I have to say, at Breakin Convention, there does tend to be a lot of that. And I don't want to fight it, you know, because that's what the artists want to say. And they're very responsive to what's happening, you know. We had Breakin Convention during COVID, and all of the work was reflecting isolation and was reflecting tension, you know. I have no control over that. Do you know what I mean? If anything, I want to provide a platform. When it comes to programming Breakin Convention, there's so many artists that I say, I trust you. You're going to make a new piece. I trust you. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but when it does work out, it's incredible. And big up Sadler's Wells for giving me the space to be able to fail. Yeah. And I don't want to say fail as in, that piece of work wasn't good enough. I just think it's okay to show people's work because that's what they're feeling, as opposed to, is it really good?
Your relationship with Sadler's has been incredible, because it's not just about this seminal kind of festival that you're holding, Breakin Convention, but now it's leading into the future, this Academy of Breakin Convention, you know? I want to go back to that, because this is where the young generation are going to go. I don't know if there's a school outside the one you're creating.
Okay, so there's hip-hop dance academies, yeah, particularly in Holland. There's also some in France, but France are really going through some crazy stuff at the moment in relation to this diploma, which if you get this diploma, then you're allowed to teach hip-hop.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is a real challenge, because hip-hop has thrived outside of institution, you know what I mean? And I had to question myself, like, why am I
bringing
pushing
this into an institution?
You know, and I guess we brought hip-hop into the institution via Breakin Convention, the festival, yeah? And I think that's worked out. I think it's opened up the different perspectives that hip hop artists, like devout hip hop artists, can actually look and say, wow, here's another context in which I can do my work. There's people that just love theatre, that's like, wow, theatre that plays music that I'm listening to now, that are doing dance that I'm doing in my body now.
But it's important what you said. The key word for me was another.
Yes.
It wasn't in the sense that you're saying that where devout hip hop artists can see that there's another approach, yes, another way of doing things.
Yes.
It's not a replacement.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in this world that we live, the concept of replacement is so filled with fear and
arrogance.
And arrogance, you know.
Entitlement.
Yes. If we're given the space to really study history and look at the cyclical nature of it, you know, if we don't acknowledge the past, we're doomed to repeat the failings, you know what I mean?
Can I take you back to a piece that really inspired me?
Yes.
I remember discovering for the first time your solo, Aeroplan Man.
Yes.
And it blew me away because you were talking. You were not just dancing.
No. I was jogging.
You were jogging. And yeah. And that had a seminal effect on me as a soloist, wanting to do solo work. How did that come about?
Brilliant. So, there was a spoken word event that was happening in the small space at Oval House Theatre, RIP. And it was an opportunity to use more space, you know, simple as that. And I'd been thinking about how can I bring dance into my spoken word a lot. And originally, I was working with Benji Reed, yeah? And I said, right, so I'm going to be on this journey and I'm going to be jogging, I'm going to be saying this poem, and then I'm going to get to places, and you, if you stand here in the corner, you play the character of each person that I meet. And then he said, Jonzi, you do that. I was like, okay, could do that. I never thought I was a really good actor, but it wasn't about acting. It was about mimicry. Yeah, I've met these people. Literally, I met them. So I'm the first person that can mimic them. Do you know what I mean? Nobody else met them in the same way in which I did, you know? So he worked with me defining these character moments. And all of the text was, it felt really simple. I think I wrote it in an afternoon, you know? And I think some of the best ideas are immediate like that. You don't need to think or work or, you know.
Would you mind quoting do you remember any of the lines?
Born and bred in England, yeah man. Down the road from the docklands, gotta go. The slum of the Englishman, yeah man. They're paranoid of us black men. Oi! You come over here, you take all our jobs, all our asses, all our women. You can fuck off back to your own country. I'll serve you up, mate. I will. I think he's got a point, man. Don't want to live in no sick land next door to some sick man. Nah, man. Call up Mr. Airplane Man. Jet me to my parents' land. Yeah, man. Click.
Beautiful, thank you.
I don't think I'll ever forget that piece, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about your first experience at Sadler's and how that first experience of this birth of this idea of the Breakin Conventions Festival, how did it go down? So
Alistair, he programmed the full-length version of Aeroplan Man at the Queen Elizabeth Hall. And at the end of that, he said, Jonzi, have you got any more work? Have you got any more ideas? And I said, yeah, I have. But actually, what I really want to do is I want a festival, because I've seen a lot more people doing this hip hop theatre. As a result of my first show, Lyrical Theatre, I toured it in America and a couple of places around Europe, France, Holland. And it was part of urban dance festivals as well. And I was just seeing some amazing stuff. And I was just like, Alistair, this isn't about my work. This is a cultural phenomenon that's creating theatre now. And I think we should do a festival. Anyway, he left there, Queen Elizabeth Hall, where he was head of dance. Then he went to Sadler's Wells. And in his first year, he called me and he said, Jonzi, do you want to do this festival? And obviously I said yes. And it was a remarkable program. We had the Vagabond crew from France who were like the champions in breaking competitions, but one of them called Battle of the Year. You have to do a 6-minute piece to qualify to be able to battle. Yeah. So people put their work in, and the French, they've been doing this hip hop theatre for a long time. So they had so much experience in form. This was when Sadler first came through. We also had Tommy the Clown, who is the originator of crump culture dance. Well, actually, he started clown dancing. He wore makeup, and there was a great documentary by David LaChapelle called Clowns in the Hood, I think was the original name. And then it became Rise as it got a cinema release. And I remember seeing these dancers and I was like, we have to bring them to London. And they hadn't been to London before. So that was crazy. And yeah, we got 5-star reviews in the broadsheets and stuff like that. And personally, I thought the program was okay. I think we have got better over time. But I think it was just that surprise of seeing so much work, so much global work. And yeah, so that was exciting. But I performed that night, yeah? And my concept of hip-hop has been pretty X-rated. You know, I really got into the parental guidance advice sticker thing, and I kind of wanted to reflect that in hip-hop, and particularly in the mid-90s, there was a gangster thing that was going on that I wanted to respond to. So I performed a piece that I did called Safe, which is a piece that started with this. Tension release. Simple as that. Then I pushed that and I thought, what does it feel like to have this tension travel through the body? So using the concept of a wave and just feeling as though this tension's passing through my body and then escaping. And then I thought, how do I do that as sound? Then I thought, interesting, but maybe I can do it with meaning. So then I thought of 3 different stories that started very calmly, and then at some point I lose it and I go too far. So it was a kind of piece about self, not suppression. You know, when you're thinking some shit and you just can't say it, just because it's wrong. You shouldn't say it. You shouldn't think it. You shouldn't do it. But I wanted to just see what it feels like to actually threaten to do it. And each monologue of the 3 ended with, but I shouldn't, so I won't, and I'm safe. But in a way, I was trapped in a safe, you know. But anyway, I performed that at the event, and I lose it at these points, effing and blinding and stuff. And the audience were going, boo! Not all of them, but just a few. Boo! There's kids here. And then it was when I realized, shit, we're starting this event at 6 o'clock. It's a hip hop event. It's an all-day hip hop event. And obviously, some people see it as something great for the kids. Yeah. Whereas for me, I always thought of it as something that's a mature form in which we hear challenging things. Anyway, I got booed off. Not booed off. I finished the piece. But then at the end, I grabbed the mic and I said, guys, I'm very sorry for the bad language. I've learned. I don't know. I said something like that. So it was a real baptism of fire, you know, my own gig that I programmed and I wanted to perform at. And I was arguably the least successful piece.
Or the most successful piece, because it's you're testing the genre and you're testing the audience, really, to know what you're going to program for the following years.
Yes, exactly.
Because at that point, we still didn't know who the audience were going to be.
That's right.
Because it was at Sadler's and it was the first of its kind.
Yes, yes.
Amazing. And when we talk about Alistair, we're talking about Alistair Spalding here. Yeah. For those of you who don't know who Alistair Spalding is, he is the artistic director, the big boss of Sadler's. When he joined, that's when I joined. That Jonzi was already there.
Yes, yes. No, we joined at the same time.
2000.
I remember there was a press launch. Siddy was there.
Siddy Larby.
You was there. I was there.
Oh, 0 Degrees.
Yeah.
We did 0 Degrees. Ah, okay.
Yes.
That was around the same time.
Yes. And there was somebody else there, and Betsy Gregory put her hand up. Where's all the women, Alistair? And it was so blatant. I just looked along the line, all dudes. You know what I mean? But obviously, that's been fixed since.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what is your outside your work? I mean, I suppose you're an artist, so not just a leader, but an artist. But outside, let's say, hours of working, what does dance mean to you? Like, do you dance outside the stage, off stage? Yeah. In a party? Like, I don't. I'm terrified of it. Right. I don't know why, but I'm terrified of it. But do you?
I do. That's where it lives, man. That's where it lives. I love after parties. You know, whenever we do a Breakin Convention after party, I'm always there dancing. Not necessarily in the middle of the cypher, but dance is a language that I cannot do without in a social context, yeah? The ability to speak to different people, often people that you know, but beautifully when you don't know them, and you just find a moment and you just got the similar rhythm, little battle, you know, little challenge thing, and then move on. It happened just the other day at an event called Epic Jam, which was in the Stockwell Hall of Fame, which is where loads of graffiti happens in an estate in Stockwell. And they had a jam there by a group called Epic. Every person is capable. Yeah. And it's a complete hip hop jam. There was graffiti happening, DJs there was MCs, and there was a breaking competition. It was just beautiful. And yeah, there was a real language thing going on, because there was Italian rappers, definitely French, there were Polish b-boys, but everybody had the same language of hip-hop, you know what I mean?
And you were in the midst of it as well.
I was in the midst of it, man, and you know, it's home for me.
I love the fact that you can just let yourself be free. Okay,
so it's not always like that. I'll give you an example. I went up to Newcastle. What space was it? South Shields. And afterwards we were jamming, and them Newcastle b-boys are so good. They're so stylish. And one of them, his name's Jelly. I wonder if you'll ever hear this, Jelly. But anyway, he said, Jonzi, gonna throw down. Come on, let's just give us a little top rock or something. And I had a little bit of a knee injury. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. Nah, it's just the knee. But it wasn't the knee. I didn't want to not represent. And I just didn't feel as though I could do it at that moment. And let me be real, it was because they were so good. Yeah. If they were average, then I'd have probably just got in and showed a little something. But yeah, it's yeah. Jelly, so now you know. Yeah, it was embarrassing for me. I didn't like how it felt because these guys are not judgmental like that. They know I'm not a B-boy like that. They know I'm an MC. They just wanted to, let's just have fun together. Let's just do this culture that we love so much. So I wonder why is the question. Why do we feel uncomfortable? Is it a product of our institutionalization?
Maybe. For sure, I've been affected by it. My mother, who's in her 70s, still dances at parties. Yet I'm sitting quietly on the side, terrified that somebody's going to come up to me and say, "Will you dance?" But on stage, in front of 1,500 people, I'm not terrified at all. But I wanted to go back to you because really, I'm curious that is dance the only movement that you've done, or did you get into cycling or football or?
I cycle. I was considering cycling here, but the time was running. But I often cycle from my home in King's Cross to Stratford.
For exercise reasons? For
nope, just to get from A to B, But obviously there's an exercise part of it that I'm enjoying as well. But I prefer to not think of it as exercise, but practically I'm trying to get somewhere.
Right.
And the rail fares are expensive nowadays, you know what I mean? And actually it's a great thing to be able to jump on a bike, I'm 55 in September, do you know what I mean? So I want to make sure that the old tickers move in and stuff, But other than that,
when you were younger, was there anything that any sports that
football? Everybody played football at the time. It was almost a rite of passage. I remember in our primary school, like everyone played football. The girls, you know what I mean? Like we'd all be together in that joy of that. But nah, I don't think any other movement techniques. I've always enjoyed vocalizing. I'd say I am better at that than dancing. And I love freestyling, just rhyming off the top of the head and stuff.
Well, that's a movement in itself.
Yeah, man.
Movement of thought.
Yes.
To be able to make sound, you have to vibrate.
Yes, of course.
It's movement.
Yeah.
It's the way when you did yours, you did a little example of Aeroplan Man just now. It's such an honor to hear it again and to feel it again. But it's a way of moving.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, because ultimately, if we break it down, it is the movement of your vocal cords that are creating the sound, It's the movement of the mental, It's shifting words around in the moment because you've got to think about the rhyme, but you've also got to think about meaning, So yes, there's a lot of movement when it comes to that. And even like any rapper that you hear, like, they're doing this while they're spitting,
Jonzi, did you because it had a huge impact on me. I was curious before, because we're going to finish soon and I wish it just wouldn't end. I think in the next podcast with you, if we do another one, should be hours, because there's so much to learn from you. Movement played a big part for me in a disco competition that I did at school. I was 11, I think, or 12. It was in middle school, and nobody knew I existed. I used to be like the wall, or the floor. I was as quiet and disappeared as possible because I didn't want anyone to look at me, just in case they went, "Oh, you're the dumb one, right?" So, disco competition comes up. A friend enrolled me. I did it, and for the first time, they go, Aren't you the boy who's in my class for the last 2 years?
Really? Excellent.
What's your name? You just won gold medal, right?
Nice.
How important do you think dance is and movement is, and in schools? How important should it be? And was it important to you?
Yes, it was important. As I said, we did drama, but as part of our productions, there'd be dance in it. So we were encouraged to make our own little dances. I think Grease, the movie, was out around that time, and I remember us being really influenced by, what's his name?
John Travolta.
You know.
Well, he was a dancer, right?
Yeah, man, incredible dancer. Yeah. And I feel that it's another language, but it's a much easier language to access than the written word, you know. And I think that as part of having a group dynamic, I think some people can dance and find their purpose through dance rather than through other things. So you can find yourself as a leader simply because you can dance. You can find yourself as a teacher because you can dance. You can find yourself as a human being, and people will recognize your humanity through dance, you know. And I think that we have to give space for some people to feel that, and not everybody's going to feel it. We know that, you know. But I think to deny young people the chance to move, you know, look at babies. That's one of the first things they want to do. You know, doing this, you know what I mean? It's innate, you know.
It's really, you've been instrumental to so many people, including myself, as I said when I saw Aeroplan Man. Because you have really brought possibilities to the form that you love, and shown its possibilities at Sadler as well through Breakin Convention. But equally, as a leader, you have not put your voice on the main stage. You've curated from behind other people's voices, given people that we might not have had access to. And now bringing that to another stage where you're opening a school. For a new generation of people who may not, like me, write their thoughts on paper, but instead have now the possibility to write their thoughts on their body.
Yes.
And thank you for that, Jonzi.
My pleasure. But just to be clear, you are expected to write your thoughts on paper. Yeah. We want polymaths. Yeah. I think a lot of us who studied hip hop in the first generation, we tried everything. It was sold to us as this package which involved rap, graffiti, DJing, breaking, you know. The only thing that I couldn't do was DJ because I couldn't afford decks, or I wasn't willing to spend my money on decks, you know. But all of the other things are free.
You called it
Polymath.
I think that's something that also reminds me very much of what Indian classical dance and music used to be like.
Yes.
Where the critics in India are not theatre critics. You don't have dance critics and you don't have music critics. They're all one.
Yes.
Because fundamentally, you're telling a story.
Yes.
And sometimes the dancer is singing.
Yes.
Or doing footwork, which is a musician.
Yes.
And sometimes they're speaking words because you speak to the audience.
Yes. And you use the voice as a percussive instrument as well.
Exactly.
So it's all blending and using each other to tell this one story. You know, Africa, that's how it is there as well. My wife is South African. We met when I did the first version of Aeroplan Man, and she could dance, she could sing, she could act. He gave her some drums, she could knock out a beat. And the idea that you had one discipline and then you stuck to that makes no sense within the African context. Yeah.
Jonzi D, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. As I said earlier in the beginning, you're an encyclopedia that's lived knowledge, not just information that you've taken from a book. It's lived. And to share it with us is, thank you. It's amazing.
It's an absolute pleasure. Each one teach one, we say.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Move to Live, and do keep an eye out for other episodes here on Marquee TV, and feel free to get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. The email address is movetolivepodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch on our socials. You'll find all the links in the show notes. So for now, goodbye and keep moving.